The Earth will itself be at risk, and for the planet, there is no plan B.
Realize what is at stake.
We are running short on time. And at this point, the question is whether we will move forward together or split apart.
Hello, and welcome to Fox News Reporting, Global Warming or a Lot of Hot Air. I'm Bret Baier. For months ahead of time, the build-up to the Copenhagen Conference on Global Warming was apocalyptic. Its organizers warned the surfaces of the world's ice caps are melting, sea levels are rising, and more droughts and floods are to come. Some of its participants called the conference part of a solution to save humanity. World leaders one-upped each other to spread the message of doom. Amidst the hype and hoopla, participants gathered to make monumental decisions on how and how much to cut the carbon emissions that they say threaten the world with disaster. The UN and developing countries repeated calls for trillions of dollars in foreign aid, technology transfers, and other assistance to help them deal with the projected consequences of global warming. The source of all this money? Of course, the developed nations, led by the U.S. There was talk of reorienting world trade patterns, creating new carbon standards for imported and exported goods, and strengthening international control over the rules and regulations that go with that. In short, to restructure the world's economy as we know it. All the while, to many Americans, things don't seem that dire. So it's not too surprising that when the latest Fox News poll asked Americans about the most important job for the federal government right now, they ranked global warming dead last. But as Eric Shawn reports, proponents of a Copenhagen deal don't have the same priorities.
If we fail to get our act together on climate change altogether, then you're talking about really dramatic events.
If you had to identify one man as the face of Copenhagen, it would be Ivo de Boer.
Like maybe even a 6 or 7 meter sea level rise, dramatic changes in weather patterns, more storms, flooding, Himalayan glaciers disappearing. I mean, if we just see a 1 meter sea level rise, it means displacing 20 million people in Bangladesh. They might be knocking on your back door for somewhere to stay.
Born in Austria to a Dutch diplomat, de Boer first got involved in climate change in 1994, when he helped prepare the position of the European Union in the lead-up to the negotiations on the Kyoto Protocol. Today, he is now the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. That makes him, among other things, the salesman-in-chief of the Copenhagen Climate Conference. And the people he most needs to seal the deal with is the American public. We're perhaps the nation most skeptical of global warming, but de Boer says Barack Obama is changing that.
I'm quite amazed by how President Obama has managed to turn this issue around. President Obama has said that he takes this issue seriously, that he wants the United States to show leadership, that he wants to see an agreement in Copenhagen, but he also sees it as being central to the U.S. agenda on energy security and energy prices.
But some American critics fear that plans of international global warming bigwigs like de Boer could represent a gigantic power grab.
If you ask an American about this, they'll say they don't want to be told what to do. They worry that the American sovereignty will be impacted, and they worry that they'll be having some bureaucrats or some Europeans guiding our policy in this country.
Well, that's the one thing they don't need to worry about. We will not have a world government. We will not have Europeans telling you what to do. What we will have, if we choose a market-based approach, if we say let's have the market fix this rather than the bureaucracy, then you do need to have checks and balances on the market.
That marketplace approach is a worldwide cap-and-trade system in which industrialized countries can ease the pain of cutting back carbon emissions by buying carbon credits from less developed countries for the right to emit CO2. The less developed countries will earn carbon credits by refraining from activities that increase CO2, like building carbon-spewing factories or cutting down forests.
But many people don't buy that. They think that this forces America to give billions of dollars away.
Well, those people are wrong. It doesn't force the United States to give billions of dollars away. Having said that, I do hope that America will reach out to developing countries.
Americans have to realize that we wouldn't have a climate change crisis if America had paid attention to its emissions.
In contrast to DeBoer, Maurice Strong bluntly points the finger at us. The grand old man of UN environmentalism, Strong was the Secretary General of the UN's first major environmental conference in Stockholm in 1972, and the first UN-sponsored Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro 2 decades later. He was also a special advisor to former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. In June, Strong raised eyebrows with a piece in the left-of-center World Policy Journal. In it, he said we face an Armageddon that was real and imminent, and wondered if democracy was up to the task of dealing with it. He spoke to us from Beijing, where he now lives.
You've written, our concepts of ballot box democracy may need to be modified to produce strong governments capable of making decisions, difficult decisions.
I'm saying that mere exercising the ballot isn't enough. There has to be a high degree of citizen involvement, citizen participation. I've said that over and over again for many years. Anyone who actually looks at the whole article and the other will know that I'm calling for more, not less democracy, and more actual involvement of people and citizens.
You wrote, quote, climate change is rooted in the same basic condition that has produced the global financial and economic crises, the unsustainable nature of our existing economic system.
I'm a great believer in capitalism, but not the indulgent capitalism for the benefit of a few that has widened the discrepancies between rich and poor.
Many Americans are worried that if this treaty goes through, there'll be a global bureaucracy telling us what to do, how to live, what type of car we can drive, what type of light bulbs we would have.
Those are scare tactics for those who don't want it to happen.
It's very controversial, obviously.
Well, it's controversial mainly with people who have an interest in the status quo.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that feel they're going to be economically damaged by change.
It's a nasty charge that critics of global warming are informed not by facts, but by self-interest. The same accusation could be leveled at Strong, who admits he stands to make money himself if the Copenhagen dream of a worldwide carbon trading regime comes to pass.
You're listed as the vice chairman of the Chicago Climate Exchange, a for-profit company that is building cap-and-trade marketplaces around the world. Is that a conflict of interest for you?
I think it's an expression of my interest. Why shouldn't you put your money where your mouth is? Why should you just sit on the sidelines and either throw stones or yell encouragement?
Coming up this hour, more on what those emission reduction targets would really mean for America and the poor of the world. The Obama administration's plans for an end run around Congress, and how fears of global warming may put democracy in the balance. But first, a big leak. The private emails of top global warming scientists. Did they fudge their research? Fox News reporting continues after the break.